the level of violence is at the same point, regardless of what was said, right? The individuals who said those things are.
We get a person in and they just do their specialty area, and that's just not good.
Well, I told y'all they were going to come after me. So today, he has not turned himself in.
That's what you just said. He wants that kind of absolute. Good evening. This is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
And welcome to The Source. Once again, we don't have our co-host with us today, and we recognize that she's out with family. So she's not really out saving the world. She's out with family, enjoying and getting all her vacation in, because starting next week, everybody will be back at work.
Yes.
But Kobe, I'm becoming very, very concerned and disheartened with the level of violence that is occurring in the city of Wilmington. We always open up our show with sharing the shootings and the violence. And also, we do talk about the celebrations, but right now, several things are happening. Within the last week, from last Friday, Saturday, Wednesday, several shootings occurred. Starting off with the one on the 600 block of Taylor Street.
Yeah, so that happened around 8:15 in the morning. Again, people are going to work, moving around and everything. A 52-year-old man was shot, but was taken to the hospital in stable condition. And again, one thing I really want to highlight with this is the coverage of the shootings throughout the city. I'm glad he's in stable condition, but the coverage of shootings isn't what it used to be.
Right.
As well as the reporting from the Wilmington police, it's not the same as it used to be. So therefore, there's a lot of things that the community as a whole are not aware of. And this is very concerning. This is you shouldn't have to find out about a shooting in your backyard from Facebook, from Twitter, from Instagram. That's, it's very concerning that you're not seeing these stats pop up in WPD's reports, but yet time and time again, individuals are being harmed.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because we were in our office talking, and some of the staff were sharing with me when I start sharing with them, because I don't live in the city, and they were saying, well, this is not the only one. They have named other ones that what happened within last week, and they find a lot of stuff on Facebook because there's a lot of conversation going on, and then and they are real. So what is going? Before we even go into the other three I want to talk about, what do you think is what's behind it not being reported?
I think right now you have an administration who's trying to shape a narrative that we are a safer city under his lead, that we have seen great economic growth. But the reality has to be put out there. The reality is there's still individuals being shot at a disproportionate rate. You have millions of square foot of empty retail space and office space here in the city of Wilmington. You're not, just by shaping narratives, right? You're not actually creating solutions. And I feel as though because of their view of thinking, let's develop, instead of actually building upon better solutions. That's why we're in the situation we're in right now. And instead of addressing it, they would rather manipulate data points for their narratives.
Well, the facts are the facts. And while sometimes you can shape a narrative that will fit what you are really trying to do or trying to say when it's not the reality. I mean, Friday, there was a shooting. Then on Saturday, there were 4 people who were shot, and one was critical. I saw that. I did see that in the news. Somebody just opened up fire, which I'm not going to blame the Wilmington police for somebody just opening up fire and shooting. But I am going to say what are we doing to prevent some of these things? What are some of the precautions? I just don't understand.
I haven't seen any. I know there has been an initiative for more community policing, which has helped in some communities.
Mhm.
Um, but I think you still also have to address what is really going on the streets as well.
Mhm. Now, do you think now just so because we have a different mixed audience who watch our show, do you think that a lot of this comes from people saying the liberals want there not to be no real policing in our neighborhoods, so therefore the violence is breaking out so horribly? Because that's a narrative the Republicans are trying to push, not so much in Wilmington but across the country, that the liberals are the reason why the violence is so much in these cities. But what is your stand on that?
I think one, we seen an uptick and we've seen it sustained since the pandemic, right?
Okay.
So the level of violence is at the same point, regardless of what was said, right? The individuals who said those things aren't the decision makers.
Mm-hmm.
They called on decision makers to change the system because it wasn't working. And guess what? They doubled down and gave more money into a system that is broken, right? Well, me personally, I'm not saying I don't want cops on the street.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying I want cops focused on solving crimes, stopping murders, and making sure everyone feels safe in their homes. Nothing has changed at all.
Okay.
It's just there has been, again, now that violence is hitting closer to home to individuals now. And I think now they're starting to realize it more and more.
You know, one of the things that Street, who used to be one of our co-anchors here on the show, used to always say, "Where is the plan?" You know, the lack of planning creates the chaos that we are finding ourselves in constantly. We can never blame the Wilmington Police Department for violence on the street until we recognize whether or not there's a plan. What are we doing to offset it? You know, and as I'm watching this, it's even in the paper this week. You know, and this is why I know there's no plan. The woman who was killed a year ago,
Yes.
from Wisfis, she was an executive. If any murder I thought would have been solved right away, would have been that one. But they have no clue on what's going on even with that one, which says there is a systematic issue here. So at one point you could say it was a racism or race issue, but that one was not solved, which means it's systematic. What kind of police do we have? What kind of detectives do we have? What kind of plan do we got going
Even
on?
then, when that incident happened, you remember the backstory behind that. We didn't find out. Now, I work right at the corner where she got shot. I work in the community service building, right? I had no idea. But guess what? I didn't know because that's when we had the PGA tour here, right? We're only going to have positive headlines during this time. We're going to let the BMW come in and, guests who are staying at the Hotel Du Park, they can park anywhere. They can park up on the sidewalks. They can speed through our city. Cops block the streets for them and everything. And when this murder happened, they said, we're going to hold the details. They waited almost a week before they released the details.
What's the media with all of this? Because at some one point he called it the free press. Who is controlling the narrative that the media? Because obviously they got some foothold in there.
Well, here's the thing: you have writers, you have reporters who want to report on this stuff. It's the big wigs who now own these companies, like Gannett, who shape the narrative of what can actually go out. Right, and it's sad because they've reduced their staff. Right, increasing their salaries, reduce their staff on furlough. It's not enough reporters on the street right now. So I don't blame the on the street reporters. I blame the big wigs who are in the offices who are only concerned about their bottom line.
Yeah, well, and their bottom line is really causing us chaos and havoc. If you want to know why so much misinformation is in a community, why people are just going off of he say, she say, is because we don't have any trusted or reliable source to be able to get our information from. Whether we get it off of TikTok, whether we get it off of Facebook, whether all of those places, a lot of that stuff is not even proven or true. Sometimes it is,
right?
But we don't know. But we used to could depend on the media. Okay, they went in there, they asked the tough questions, and now we know some answers. No one is asking questions. Well, I guess they can't because of the the ownership. But this is just ridiculous. And in Delaware, to have very limited sources of media is just really egregious. It's horrible.
hmm And the violence is now hitting the communities they want to keep safe,
Yeah.
right? So when that happened, you saw a huge response once the details were released, but they still haven't found anything.
Mhm.
But another thing you didn't hear, that same day that she was shot,
Mhm.
another young man was shot, but he didn't get the same attention because he wasn't a bank executive
Mhm.
back then.
Mhm.
And luckily he survived,
Right.
but still his case did not get the attention it should have. So again, this is what we are dealing with here in the city of Wilmington.
Mhm.
And you have people who work in the Wilmington Police Department who make all these statements, like David Karras, who was very adamant about pitting down black organizers during 2020, and saying we are harming the community, but yet they're not doing their jobs.
Mhm.
So to David, where are y'all at in this case? What are you doing? Or are you just collecting a paycheck and again demonizing black people in a majority black city?
We really need to pay close attention to focusing on voter right, people voting, because the AJG's office needs to be held accountable. The police will say, well, we try to lock people up appropriately, and they're not prosecuted. The cases go nowhere. We need leadership real bad.
Yeah.
The agenda of certain people, whether it be development, whether it be whatever, I think in a city like Wilmington that is as diverse as it is, we need someone who can really understand the development economic part of the city as well as the poverty part, so that we can bring a city together and grow together. Right now we're lopsided.
Yeah.
And anything that's lopsided tends to be a freak. It's not stable. So I really think what we should probably start focusing on, even on this show, is really start asking the real question to the current, if he decides to run, whoever's running for mayor. Right now, we only know one person, that's Velda Potter. We need to start asking, what is your policing plan? What is your development plan? Because I don't want nobody to think that all we care about is arresting or even just policing. We're concerned about the development of the city. We want it to happen, but if you have no plan to address the shootings, the violence, the carjacking, because that's another big thing that's happening right now, and it's happening throughout the state for real. The carjacking, and if you have no plan to really address that, then why should you be the mayor? We need somebody to be able to speak up and stand up in these areas. So I don't know, exactly y'all feeling it, but I know I've heard people talk about, it's the liberals' fault. It's y'all. And I'm gonna say, I keep calling you, but it's the liberals' fault because they don't want us to arrest. But no, I don't want you to arrest. And I know you're going to talk about something on your segment a little bit later about this police brutality that goes on. We don't want brutality. We want people to be treated as human beings. But when you're wrong, you're wrong. You have to pay the cost. And I think that's the problem that we're running into the city, is that I don't know if the people who are in position really clearly know what they're doing. That's what I'm concerned about.
I agree with you. I agree with
Well, if you agree with me, then maybe I don't know. Let me just be quiet and move on. But I'm concerned about it, especially when I saw that the arrest of the woman who had from the Wisfis Bank, an executive. Not that's so special, but that shows me it's a systematic issue.
Yes.
Because if that would have been solved, then I would have felt better saying, okay, they got a system for certain people,
right?
But they don't have a system for anybody.
Which is a huge issue.
And we can talk nice and act like we all kumbaya, but at the end of the day, we need to deal with. And I'm concerned about the media being controlled by certain administrations. Now, if by some chance, Velda wins, the media is going to treat her totally different. And I'm going to be here to call it out. Then they're treating this current administration, and that's just not fair.
And you saw that with the Williams administration.
That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying now, and I'm saying it to those of you who watch our show every week. You have to pay attention, but it's going to be important that we vote. Why? Because we have to make sure we hold people accountable, but we don't want to just vote for anybody. We want to make sure we vote for people who understand the city. There is a developmental aspect of the city, and there is a economic part of the city as well that we need to pay attention to. But what often happens is we get a person in and they just do their specialty area, and that's just not good. But we're going to be encouraging the current mayor, if he decides to run, and Velda, who have already who have already announced to please share with us what their plans are. And I would like to invite them. And matter of fact, if anybody from the Velders, since she's the only person who have said that she was going to run. If anybody from the Velder Potter's campaign is watching, please let her know that we would like for her to come on the show. Sit here, we'll ask, I'll even get off the show and let Kobe or somebody else run it for that segment. And we would like to know, what is your plan for policing? Because that's going to be important for our people, for the people who want a safe street. We can't control those who are deviant, but we can divert some of the things that they do. So if somebody's watching from Velder's camp, give us a call. And let's see if we can get you on the show. And so if somebody's watching who's planning to run, that's going to be one of our questions. What is your concerns? What are you planning to do for the development of the city as well as for the policing? Because both of those things matter. And I'm going to leave it there for today and go on to our next thing, unless you have something else you wanted to share.
No, that's all I have.
Well, let's talk about this Donald Trump psychological formation. It's a nice shift over, even though it's not a good transition. But this man is a master. He knows what to do. I can't believe I guess you're going to talk about the debate too, because you got all the juicy stuff today. But why is it that he can have 4 indictments and get stronger? How is it the hookers, the documents, the overturning of election and trying to get overturned in Georgia? How is it he's effective in his use of the media? That's why I really kept hounding on the media and why they're not covering things. He knows how to do what he does, and he got some followers who will follow him too. He said if I kill somebody on 5th Street, he would get away with it.
He would get away with it. Well, you have to look at when he first decided to run. Going back to 2015, 2016 time, in his rallies, he was laying the groundwork for this moment. He was talking about, if I win, they're going to try to undermine me. They're going to try to say this about me. Just know I'm a true fighter for you. I'm just like you, even though he's a multi-billionaire and most of them are from small towns and really aren't even close to his economic standing, right? He has been laying this groundwork, laying the foundation to be able to come out and say, oh, the media's lying. Fake news, right? Y'all remember fake news?
Yeah. From Putin.
From Putin and all this other stuff, right? So when this stuff is actually coming out now, because he knew he was dirty. He knew he did some shady deals and everything. That's how he's always operated. You go back to all the hotels, the universities, all the scams he's run where he's made millions of dollars and people have been left out in the wind, right? So now we get to these 4 indictments. Well, I told y'all they were going to come after me. See, this is the liberal media. I've never thought that I would see someone call Fox News liberal media.
That was funny, yeah.
When watching, and I watch Fox News every now and then because it's good to diversify what you watch.
Okay,
right?
Good. Good for you.
Fox News is nowhere near liberal. One of the things about a lot of national media right now, they are very biased towards one side. It's very few that are unbiased like news should probably be. And I mean, on this show, we're pretty biased as well too. On some,
y'all are.
We try not to be.
Give me something good. I'll do it either way. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I could debate anything either.
Absolutely.
But he has now crafted a narrative. When Fox News finally came out and said, "Oh well, maybe Donald Trump was wrong on something," they became liberal media, showing that in his mind, if you go against him, you are not a true conservative. Right. His base eats that up like his cinnamon toast crunch. They love that thing because that's how they feel already. They feel as though, oh, well, they're not speaking for me and Trump is speaking for me. No, he's not. He's speaking for his bank account. He's speaking for his friends' bank accounts. He's not worried about y'all. This tax cut y'all keep talking about, that was to help his friends. You get a huge tax refund if you buy a mega yacht. But if I buy school supplies for for my classroom, I don't get that write-off no more like I used to. So now, as of today, he has not turned himself in. He's supposed to surrender
tonight.
um
Well,
by
Thursday
the
night. Thursday.
end of the night Thursday
Yeah.
to the Fulton County facility.
Mhm.
On Wednesday night, the mugshots of some of his co-defendants came out, with the most, I'll say, entertaining one being America's favorite mayor,
Yeah.
Rudy Giuliani.
Uh-huh.
His mugshot coming out. But one thing about Trump, I think he's going to get out of this.
Mhm.
But he takes people down around him.
Mhm.
He has no issue leaving his closest allies in prison while he escapes free.
Yeah, and now I understand why Putin was such a fan of Putin. He has a similar spirit. The only problem is he don't have the same power.
Correct.
Had he had the same, because you're just in the media, in the news yesterday or one day this week, they talked about how the gentleman who did the coup was getting ready.
Pazingin.
Yeah, he's dead now.
Yes, by a malfunction on his aircraft.
And nowhere in the world, and every person who is analyzing and recognize that doesn't happen. When you get certain altitude, it is nothing but floating.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't. But Putin says the only person he cannot forgive is someone who betrays him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just crazy.
And again, I did not understand that coup attempt in Russia. And again, just for some background on it, Pazingin was the CEO and founder of the Wagner Group,
Right.
Which was a military, what is it called? Militant group of contractors who were working on behalf of the Russia army because the army was getting devastated so much by the Ukrainian people. They were the very few victories that Russia overall had was because of the Wagner Group. And because of a dispute, they decided to turn and stage a coup of the Russian government where they actually overtook a city and they were moving in. We thought it was the end of Putin's reign, and then all of a sudden they had a ceasefire. Putin said, "Oh, I forgive you. I'll just exile you. I won't kill you." And then he went on about his merry way until he was on his plane the other day.
And all of his main people.
And all his main people on the
Yeah.
plane, and all of a sudden the plane goes down with no survivors.
Yeah.
It's just very interesting. This is, I think it's the fourth political critic of Putin to be killed within the last 2 months.
Wow.
Again, it's sad that this keeps happening over there, but that's the type of dictatorship that Donald Trump aspires to be, that Putin is.
Yeah, it's sad, and I bring that up because that's what you just said. He wants that kind of absolute power. We live in a democracy,
Absolutely.
and in a democracy, you are held accountable. But it's the way he has that Republican Party right now, and it's like it doesn't matter because I watched that, and I but I give Haley credit.
Yeah,
she called now. That's what you call being honest.
Mhm.
She said it was under a Republican president who added $8 trillion to the debt of America's debt. And she said, and our children will never forgive us for that. She got booed, but you know what? That's the truth. He talks about conservatism. He doesn't understand what that is.
No.
It's not about fighting the government. Conservatism is really being able to conserve and reserve. But I say all those things to say you are absolutely correct, because something you said a while back and you said it again today. He's probably not going to go down, but everybody around him goes down. But I was very impressed where he had a little bit of heart and a little bit of love in him, and he sponsored $100 a ticket, $100,000. I said $100. That's where we go. We go those tickets. But he spent $100,000 per person fundraiser for Rudy Giuliani on this week, and I just it's really interesting to see that. I wonder, but they said he didn't pay for his ticket.
No, of course not. Well, we're not going to give no money up. He's using his campaign funds for his legal fee. That's why he's running for president.
Wow.
That's why he's running for president. But again, it's going to be very interesting. I think I talked about the different levels of the cases and everything. So you're going to see him take a hit, but you're probably not going to see him go down for this.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm not in the judgment yet, so I'm not going to say he will or won't. I'm believing he will, because I believe in the justice of America.
Mhm.
However, I do know how the rich gets, how they get off on things, and the poor always go to jail. So I'm
Mhm.
just very careful before I make any judgment on that. But we will see how it is. When it comes down to um, well, I guess what I'll do is I'll leave it there because I was gonna get into that debate because I'm so anxious to get into
Oh, we'll talk
but
about
I have you
it.
coming up on that. That's on your things you're going to do today. So I'm going to kind of leave it there. Listen, I ask again that you please make sure that you are telling somebody that it's time to make sure that we register to vote. Let's vote. Let's vote. Let's vote. You're going to hear me talking about that a whole lot for the next until the 2024 election. We need to make sure we're voting. One block of the city votes very strongly, but that's a very divided block too. But I do hope that we will all get together and say we want to make sure all of our children, everybody at the age of 18, am I correct?
Mhm.
Let's vote. Let's vote. Let's vote. Let's vote because the more we vote, the better it is. And I found out something. The less we vote, the more the special interests get in.
Yes.
And that's why I had on the show earlier today on my Coffee with Curry, I had Stephanie Bolden on the show.
Yes.
And she was talking about how they didn't really want to have this
Primary bill. Yes.
pass, and they keep putting it to the side. And each of the senators, even the ones from
Mhm.
Wilmington, voted present or not voting or something.
They all went not voting.
That's unbelievable. But what I share with her, and I'll share with those of you, when they don't want nothing to happen that can make sense, like we get more people voting, because the more people voting, the more our opinion really is counted. Special interests gonna always have their votes. If Trump can keep 6 people on that stage, he keeps his 33% of that base that he has, he always wins.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter to him. Long as I can keep enough to cloud up what I have to do. But what I hope and trust is that they want that bill passed.
Yeah.
But she said it has to come back again. It's just a shame. And I hope our senators who are from our area recognize that we're paying attention to that at this time too.
Yes.
So I didn't know. Anything else you want to share before we go to our break?
Nope, that's all I have.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come right back.
Join us at 9 a.m. on Facebook Live every Sunday by typing Zion Fair Baptist Church.
That Jesus felt what you're feeling, but he did not sin. Am I in the word? Have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are, yet he did not sin.
We are Wilmington's most exciting church.
New guests, new conversations, new stories every Sunday at 11 a.m. Grab your cup of coffee and tune in with Dr. Curry for our weekly episodes of Coffee with Curry.
Tune in at 8 a.m. every Sunday for our worship services. Join us at 9 a.m. on YouTube and Facebook Live by typing Zion Fair Baptist Church. We are Wilmington's most exciting church. Join us at 9 a.m. on YouTube every Sunday by typing Zion Fair Baptist Church.
Oh my God, help me today. Which means every storm is a school. Every trial is a teacher. Every experience is an education. And every difficulty is development.
We are Wilmington's most exciting church.
News all across the nation. Wilmington's latest headlines. Advocating for change in the community with Dr. C.T. Curry, Kobe Owens, and Shanae Darby. Tune in to The Source every Sunday at 5 p.m.
And we're back. Well, Kobe, I always look forward to the Kobe Corner. So let's find out what's going on in Kobe's world.
Yeah, so first I want to talk about two bills were signed that were championed by Senator Tizzy Lockman and Representative Kim Williams. They're both the education vice chair in the Senate and chair in the House. One is SB 156, which allows teachers hired after August 9th of this year, 2023, who previously worked as paraprofessionals to receive partial credit for their experience on their teacher salary scale. Again, this goes a long way in helping try to address the teachers gap that we have right now and the shortage that we are facing throughout the state. We've seen it gotten worse going into this school year. Again, teachers go through a lot of stuff that I don't think everyday people really understand it. It's, they are supposed to educate our children, but they're also the counselors for the kids. They're, things that they did not sign up for, they also have to do and incorporate in their jobs. Classroom sizes are increasing. Some teachers are teaching multiple grade levels as well too. So again, hopefully this goes and helps those, the paras who have helped in classrooms who are now looking to expand their careers as full-time teachers as well too. They really have helped a lot of teachers. I call them unsung heroes.
Right.
So definitely, this bill is going to go a long way in trying to help address that. And then also HB 138, which was sponsored by Representative Kim Williams, creates the Delaware Educator Apprenticeship Program.
Okay.
Again, this is what they are saying is it's a better alternative to the traditional student teaching experience because it pays the aspiring teachers while allowing them to form connections and relationships and hopefully long-term residency in school districts as well too. So again, it's a pilot program that's going to begin this school year, the 2023-2024 school year, and places higher education students in paid positions in schools to complete training and schooling necessary to become a credentialed teacher here in Delaware. So again, both of these bills together is helping try to address the teacher shortage that not only is Delaware facing right now, but the entire nation is facing shortages. And speaking of shortages and teacher shortages, I want to talk about the debate.
Oh.
The Republican debate earlier this week on Wednesday, one of the topics was our education, right, of the nation. Teachers were attacked by the 8 debaters on the stage. Teacher unions were attacked. They debated things like dismantling the Department of Education, creating larger school choice programs, especially charters. DeSantis talked about how they eliminated racist teaching in the schools by eliminating Black history, and by attacking what he calls the woke. This debate, you saw a lot of things, but what you didn't see was Donald Trump on the stage. He decided that he was not going to participate in this debate. He is not willing to sign the RNC's loyalty pledge that you will support whoever wins the primary because he believes it's going to be him. So why does he have to sign that to support himself?
God.
It's interesting. But there was 8 candidates on the stage.
Right.
There was former governors, former vice president, a U.S. senator, and you had a entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And in the middle of the stage, you had Ron DeSantis and Vivette, who is an entrepreneur. And I think Vivette, as the outsider of the group, positioned himself very well. Not saying I agree with his point.
I do not in a lot of areas.
I'm not agreeing with his points, but on the Republican side, I think he positioned himself very well as the strongest Trump adjacent candidate on the stage, where individuals who I think were the biggest losers of the night were the ones who tried to really break themselves away from that base. I will say when Vivette called the other 7 Barton paid for and bought by, I don't know how he said it. The audience was shocked by it.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I was shocked too. I
was too.
Yeah.
And you know, one of the interesting things was Governor Doug Burgum. He's an independently welcome governor. He stood on stage after tearing his Achilles earlier. I think it happened the night before. He joked about that, saying, you know, he came from a small town and they told him to go break a leg, and he really did. But I think he tried to position himself as the expert on how to govern best out of the former governors who were on the stage there. And those former governors included former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, Governor Burham from North Dakota, as well as the Governor Asa Hutchinson from Arkansas as well too. It was very interesting to see some of the questions that were asked by the moderators. Again, this was hosted by Fox Business. You saw those interesting race-based questions as to the minority candidates. And you did have 3 minorities, Vivette, Nikki Haley, and Tim Scott up on stage.
Right.
The only question about welfare programs were asked to the black man. But, you know, Fox isn't racist.
Yeah.
But then also, I think the biggest failure of the night was Ron DeSantis. He did not stand out to me at all as someone who can look at both sides, both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party in depth. He did not stand out at all.
Yeah.
Now, this was his time to shine with Trump not being on.
Yeah, but you know what? DeSantis is a puppet.
Yes.
So if the strings are not pulled in a certain way, he can't operate and function. Now, while I know this is your segment, I'm going to say to you, I thought a lot of your analysis is good, but I really did think that Haley did a good job. I think that sometimes when you start evaluating the debates, people tend to see where they get the most applause and who really stood out. That little young brother who was very inexperienced, he had some good liners though. He was quick on his feet too, and he even got New Jersey Chris Christie got him back to him about because Christie came at him and he said, "Give me a hug like you did Obama." So it was just, I watched all the dynamics. But let me go back to Haley. Haley showed me that she understands that the Republican Party has put us in the predicament that we're in.
Yes.
Biden has come in and he's, quite naturally, when you have, Democratic governors, presidents, they tend to, try to help the poor. But Trump didn't help the poor and gave us $8 trillion. And she conveyed that message very strongly. She also conveyed the message that she's not concerned about, aligning herself with him or his base. She would love their votes. So I thought that she was really, in my opinion, the star, and she really was able. She was very in control of her facts.
She was on some things, but I will say the point, and I think this is what you're referring to, is the line that no one is telling the American people the truth. The truth is Biden didn't do this. Our Republicans did this to us when talking about the economy. They passed a $2.2 trillion COVID stimulus bill. This was the first one that gave the banks all the money. They left us with 90 million people on Medicaid, 42 million people on food stamps, and no one has told us how to fix it. Again, I will say, yes, that did happen.
Yeah, under Trump.
And Mike Pence tried to trying to smooth it
He
over.
wasn't even there.
He wasn't really there.
Yeah.
But her talking point, yes, why there is truth in those numbers, right?
Mhm.
And I hate to have to somewhat defend the Trump administration. The reason why it was so many people on food stamps, why it was so many people on Medicaid, is because we were facing a global pandemic. That money, yes, that money needed to be passed. I think it should have been allocated to different things. But it was, we had the CARES Act, we had ARPA funding, we had, I forget what the middle one was called, but we had multiple rounds of stimulus money to try to keep the economy going while we were shut down, why we were still dealing with this global pandemic, which numbers are on the rise again. So, again, while it was truth, yes, that happened under the Republican Party, that they were trying to blame Biden for the deficit, and for where we're at right now in our economy, which we are stronger today, 2023, than we were in 2020 or 2019 prior to the pandemic. We still have a lot of work to do when it comes to getting ourselves out of that. And I think that's the point she was trying to make. I just don't agree with her path forward. Her path is to strip even more people of food stamps, strip even more people of Medicaid and Medicare, to eliminate our Department of Education, to eliminate our Department of Energy, and stuff like
and when I was talking about her facts, I mean,
Yeah.
because the Republican Party started off with all of this mess that we're in is the Democrats' fault.
Yes.
That's the part I was really talking about, not her policies. I do not agree with her policies. Matter of fact, she was able to articulate it her own way. And sometimes I can agree with how a person articulate their position, and you can see whether or not they feel convicted by it, as opposed to me agreeing with it.
Right.
Because I don't agree with most of what she shares. She's a true South Carolinian Republican.
Yes.
Okay, and I understood that very clearly when I was watching her. But she told the truth, and the truth is, Trump, who is a Democrat liberal, decided to take over their party, and he did some things, but y'all did it because it was a Republican Congress and Senate who approved it.
And to be honest, with Haley, because she also talked about, let's be honest, you need 60 votes to pass. When talking about the abortion ban, you need 60 votes in the Senate. You need the majority in the House, and you need the White House. When she says things like that, when she says, let's be honest and let's talk about who actually did this, one, you're distancing yourself from Trump. Two, I view that as you're taking a look past the primary, and now you're looking at the general election, right?
Oh, yeah.
You're trying to sway those independent voters right now, which, again, if she wins the primary, that will put her a step ahead of everyone else in that field.
Everyone else.
But you have to win that primary first, right? So that's just my view on it. But again, I think she did criticize Trump a little bit, but she also she made it more of a general mismanagement of the Republican values instead of completely naming Trump continuously,
Absolutely.
which I think is a good way to not upset his base without them realizing she's talking about them.
Yeah. Now, what's up with DeSantis not willing to say that Vice President did the right thing? Vice President, what's his name?
Pence.
He just could not say that.
He could not bring himself to say it. And I think it's because he has been critical of the administration, which has led for Trump to attack him more and more, especially now that he's in this race. And he knew that if he agreed that the vice president did do the right thing, which he did, he upheld the Constitution. And I think he had a very good line saying, I don't have the power to overturn the election, and neither does Vice President Harris. I agree with that. Neither one person should not have the power to overturn.
That was a nice subliminal message he sent out there, though.
Yes.
Because if y'all saying I could have done it, then she can do it next.
Right.
So y'all, they need to I hope they caught that.
Right. They didn't. He knew he would be attacked even more if he agreed with Vice President Pence on that.
Yeah. So okay, I'll let it stay there. You can go ahead and continue.
So next, now moving on from the debate.
Yeah.
I want to talk about a historical event that happened this weekend. The in-person kickoff rally for our current Congresswoman's Senate campaign.
Okay.
We saw Congresswoman Lisa Blunt Rochester who is vying to be the third African American woman elected to the U.S. Senate, kick off in a room that was filled with energy, a diverse room. You had multiple generations. You had different religions, different race, all in a room there to support her. And she gave a speech like none other.
Okay.
I had never really truly seen her in that mindset like she was there. It gave off presidential vibes almost. And it was delayed a little bit to give time for our senior senator who's retiring, Senator Carper, to fly back from Africa from a delegation trip just so that he could be here with the Congresswoman and be able to speak at the rally and fully endorse her for the seat that he currently has right now. So again, it was a historic event. It's going to be a historic campaign. And again, she is one of 3 African American women who are running for the U.S. Senate right now. In my mind, and I may be biased, I'm admitting it, I think she has the best chance of winning that seat, but also I am rooting for the other 2 to hopefully win, and the 3 of them to be able to serve together. We've never had more than 3 African Americans serve in the U.S. Senate together, and that was recently with Cory Booker, Tim Scott being a Republican, Cory Booker being a Democrat, and former Kamala Harris when she was a U.S. Senator before she became Vice President. So,
Well, I do want to say that and while since we're speaking of Lisa Blunt Rochester, she is one of the true pioneers, and I give her high respect. I knew her husband, and I had, as I shared with you earlier, I had our state representative voting on this earlier today, and she announced that her father, Ted Blunt, is not doing that well. So I'm going to ask, even on this show, that those of you who can offer a word of prayer for him, that you do that. Not that he's getting ready to go on and things of that nature, but you pray for his strength. And Lisa is in. See, what I've learned on the spiritual side is that attacks happen when great things are about to happen. She's about to really walk into something great, and her father's health has failed for right now. But prayers of the righteous availeth much. And I hope that you all will continue to pray for Lisa as she goes through and do what she needs to do, but also pray for Ted Blunt, who is a jewel from the city.
yeah.
He has been our shining star for us and has paved the way for many people. So we're going to keep him in prayer. And Ted, if you're watching, we are praying for you sincerely, not just offering our thoughts and prayers. We are praying for you on a serious note. So I wanted to throw that in there. And I'm sorry, you had one more you wanted to grab.
Yeah, the last thing I want to talk about is the state police.
Yeah.
Some of you probably saw the article earlier this week talking about a Facebook post that went out alleging that a state police officer assaulted a young teenager, 15-year-old, who was just playing ding dong ditch. And the officer looked.
Well, I have a senior who just said in my ear, "What is Ding Dong Ditch?"
So ding dong ditch is a game that kids have been playing for years, right?
Okay.
And it's when you run up to a house, you ring the doorbell, and then you run, right?
Okay.
It may be annoying to the person inside the house,
Right.
but it's a completely harmless game in
Okay.
my
So
mind.
make sure that they understood.
But he rung the doorbell of a police officer. His wife called and gave the video and everything, and he used his official position as a police officer to hunt this kid down, beat him, leave him in a hospital on tubes, all hooked up, bandaged up.
Wow.
And the aunt of this young man, 15-year-old, posted this on Facebook, explained what happened, that the kids were playing a game, and it was just a prank, and the officer completely went off the rails. A few days later, it comes out that this officer, in his search for the young 15-year-old boy, went to other people's houses. And in that search, he ended up in the house of a 17-year-old, used his position, said that he was the cops, open up. Once the kid opened up, he was on the phone with his mom. He called his mom first, FaceTimed her. They came in the house, told him to put their hands up, threw him on the ground, dragged him outside after handcuffed, didn't let him stand up. Dragged him outside, threw him on the grass, and then when they kept asking, "Where's why were you at my house? Why'd you try to break into my house?" Kid had no clue what they were talking about. So to prove and to try to break this kid and prove that he was right, that this was the kid who did it, he put him in the back of a police car for 4 hours and turned the heat on.
Are you serious?
Turned the heat on.
This was in the wintertime.
No, this was this past Monday
In Delaware.
at around 9:15 in Delaware
9:15 in the morning or at night.
at night.
And let's just make sure. Let me back. I had to cross my arms because I was getting a little antsy. So you're saying that here in Delaware, last week, a state police officer off
Yes.
duty.
No, the officer was on duty.
Which one?
The officer who attacked these kids were on duty,
Okay.
but he went rogue.
Oh, okay. Okay.
He went
okay.
rogue. He left his position,
Okay.
came home, and then went searching for these kids.
Now, is where he does his police work? Is that in his district where he lives?
That they won't disclose.
Oh,
They won't
okay.
disclose that.
No, the reason why that still
Yeah.
doesn't solve the issue, even if he is.
Mm.
I just wanted to ask that question because that shows clearly that he has really he's gone rogue. And so you're telling me he went while he was looking for the other one, he harassed another child
Mhm.
and a 17-year-old,
Mhm.
put him in a police car, turned the heat up.
Tortured them.
That's what it's called. I was going there.
Torture.
Unacceptable.
Torture.
And I'm very.
Then when he caught the 15-year-old, he stumped him, kicked him, and beat him up.
So he found the one who did it
Hmm.
and then tortured, beat him. Oh, what is going on?
But I mean, our Delaware General Assembly, especially our Delaware Black Caucus, must be so happy in themselves right now because they just passed this bill that all it's going to do is allow the state police to say, "Hey, yeah, this happened. We're not taking any action. Oh, yeah, also in 5 years, he'll be able to become a cop because we're going to erase all this from his file now based off the bills that they pass." I'm so glad that we have strong leaders with strong spines like Frank Cook who passed this bill that's now going to allow this officer to get off. This officer who literally attacked minors, both black and white,
Mm-hmm. Wow.
he's going to get off.
Wow. Wow.
But I remember you crying on the steps 3 days after the big protest down in Dover, Frank, about how you're going to upset your friends and hold them accountable for their actions.
Mm.
Well, okay, writing a little report saying, yeah, the cops beat this kid up, but then there's no action, there's no accountability.
Yeah, I want to start following some of this a little bit more, like we did with the Delaware Avenue case. I'm still following it. I'm just not reporting it right now. We need to find out where they are. Like I'm sure they got to get an attorney at this point.
Yes.
But I think both of them need to get an attorney.
Yeah.
To be very honest with you, the 17-year
criminal and civil
That's right,
cases need to be
absolutely.
filed.
And I want to follow that too. I want that to be a part of something we do. And please make sure you keep us updated. If you want to bring someone on the show, we need to bring them on the show. We need to go to take the cameras to where they are as well. Especially that 16-year-old who was beaten. I don't think no one have the right. I don't care what the legislation passed, although that matters because when you're in the court of law, our emotions doesn't matter. What we feel doesn't matter. It's the law that what's matter. And I think that's where the problem is. And for all of our legislators who are watching, and you're always concerned about your names being called out or whatever else, you got to make sure that you are representing the city. Not only the city, but the citizens. That's what I really want to say. And if you're passing legislation that represents a special interest group, you're going to always be called out.
Right.
At some point, you got to recognize that we're in a bad situation here, and this is just unbelievable. And I'm trying to hold my.
This is now the second week in a row.
Yeah.
That we've had a issue with the state police. And again, based off the last case, yeah, the officer, they knew they were putting fake charges on the guy who made a gesture towards them, but yet they still did it. He won't be held accountable either. He will still be able to be a cop. He will still be able to go somewhere else and be a cop because instead of actually holding them accountable and creating no hire lists here in the state of Delaware, they didn't want to really push that hard against the FOP. The same people who are defending this officer, the same people or who would have defended every bad officer out there until it gets so bad and the officer is no longer with the force. Then the FOP was like, oh, wait, whoa. We're not defending a former cop anymore. That's their narrative every time. So while, again, true activists, people who have lived through this, people who have fought up against this, have said it's time to take a stand. There's more black people down in the Dover General Assembly percentage-wise than anywhere else in the nation. It is no way we should pass the weakest bill in the entire nation. Oh, Leah Boyd was the most anti-public one. Guess what? Analysts have already studied the bill that you put forth and says this, yeah, it makes it a little better. Still the worst. Still the worst.
Wow.
So what are you doing?
Well, and for those of you, you're looking at Kobe and you're saying, well, why is he so animated? Why is he so frustrated? Because some of us, honestly, we're out here doing the work. We are working with people who have been treated wrong. We've been mistreated. And while Kobe can go, he's a college graduate. He can go and get a job and live good the rest of his life and mind his own business. But it does not solve the problem of the hurt, the pain, and the frustration that goes on in our community. Somebody have to stand up, and we vote people in. We call them public servants. We call them politicians. And politicians, as I've often defined it as the poly, meaning many in Greek, ticks are blood suckers. We don't need those individuals. We need people who care about the people they represent. Your constituents matter. And what I'm running into more than anything else is that what are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if Kobe's comments is right about the data about more African Americans down in the General Assembly than any other ethnic group, then why? Why aren't we taking care of business? Why aren't we concerned about because something Shanae said, I want to remind you, who fund you, run you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm starting to believe that. Because I mean, when you ran the first time, they came at you like you were. I was like, why are they attacking him so much? Because they can't control your narrative. And I think at some point we're gonna have to put a stop to this. We're gonna have to put an end to it. So I'm gonna leave that there, Kobe, because I'm a little angry, and I really want to know what's next. And that's the assignment I'm giving you for next show. What is next with these two young boys? Because this is wrong. If they did wrong, sure, lock them up. Do what they're supposed to do and follow the law. I am that kind of conservative, or if you want to call me anything. But by the same token, if they did nothing,
right,
then you need to deal with the people who have harassed them and did them wrong. And this is not fair. They're got to for the rest of their lives. And that boy was harassed in a car in the heat, and another one was beat.
Another one was stumped out.
Was the cop African American?
We don't know.
Oh, they won't give out any information.
They won't give out any information.
Stay tuned. We're gonna stay on this one. Go ahead, Kobe. You got anything else you want to share?
That's all I have for today.
Man, it's just too much going on, Mike. On my nerve. Before what we'll do is we'll close out the show here and instead of going to a commercial break. And we'll just share a couple things, and you can share anything you want to do as the end. Again, keep Ted Blunt in your prayers.
Yes.
I hope that you will do that for Lisa's sanity purposes. She and all of her sisters love their dad.
Yes.
But not only we love Ted Blunt. He's a very good guy, and he has really worked hard to support African Americans, Latinos, and Caucasians across the board as he served in various capacities in the city council. But I do ask that you would keep him in prayer. I also ask that you would please, why don't you take some time, and Kobe, maybe we need to put out some kind of push, get people registered to vote. That's going to be my push. I watched how they treated me. And it's not even about me, but I try to do things to help people. But I see how they blackballed me. Certain Congress and people or senators they care for how they interact with me because we need to vote. And we need to vote so strong that they realize those who represent you are to be respected. So I'm going to be pushing very hard. In my church, I'm going to be pushing. A part of your membership is to be registered, and a part of your membership is that you go out and you vote. Cast that vote. And I'm talking to all the pastors out there, all the leaders, civic leaders. Let's do a campaign, get people registered to vote so that we can get people in office who will represent our best interests. I think that's the only way we can
Absolutely.
win. That's the only way we can win. And when we were going to talk a little bit about the about the candidates, but there's no new people announced. This
No
week,
new
right?
people this
So we just have those who we have. So within the next couple of months, you're gonna start seeing a lot of people registering to run. I just hope that whatever field we have, we don't have it like the Republicans. We got several people running, knowing they cannot win, but there to just to get in the way of another person winning. I hope that doesn't happen as well. So Kobe, that's all I have for our agenda today. It's been an interesting show, but you done stressed me out now. I'm very angry, and I need to figure out how we gonna help
Yes.
this family, and that's something I'm gonna stick to. But is there anything else you have on your agenda for today?
That's all I have right now.
Well, I want to take this opportunity again and say thank you very much. Let's keep Ted Blood in prayer.
Yes.
And I thank y'all so very much. So I'll talk to you.
Take care, y'all.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Source. Be sure to tune in next Sunday at 5 p.m.